when a thin, limping dog stopped traffic holding a bloody pajama sleeve. Police followed the dog. Then what did they find surprising and shocking there? Let's see in this video. The morning air hum. It was a Monday. Sunlight, bright and unfiltered, painted Elm Street. Cars moved with a practiced rhythm. Commuters sipped coffee. School buses made their usual stops. Everything felt ordinary. Utterly, predictably ordinary. Then, the rhythm broke. Traffic stopped. Not gradually. It stopped dead. A jarring, unexpected halt. A creature stood in the road. It was a dog. Its fur was matted. Its ribs showed starkly beneath a thin coat. One leg was held awkwardly off the ground. It limped when it shifted its meager weight. Its eyes, they were wide. Not with aggression, but with a desperate, raw panic. Something hung from its mouth. A scrap of fabric. It was stained. Dark. Wet. Blood. The dog stood firm. It refused to budge. It stared. Its gaze swept over the halted cars. Over the frustrated faces of drivers. There was an urgency there. A wild, pleading intensity. People leaned on their horns. Impatience flared. The usual city symphony of annoyance began. Then, a woman in a blue sedan looked closer. Her hand flew to her mouth. Her eyes widened in horror. It wasn't just any cloth. The pattern was visible. Small, cartoon rockets. It was the sleeve of a child's pajama top. Tiny. Torn. Soaked in what was unmistakably fresh blood. That single observation changed everything. The mundane morning shattered. A collective gasp seemed to ripple through the stalled traffic. The blaring horns died away, replaced by an uneasy, prickling silence. Someone fumbled for their phone. Their voice was shaky. Police. There's a dog. And blood. A child's pajama. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Officers arrived within minutes. The dog was still there. A small, trembling sentinel. It stood guard over the gruesome piece of cloth. Its tail was stiff, rigid. Its ears swiveled, alert to every sound, every movement. It let out a single, sharp bark. A command. Then, it turned. It began to trot away. Its limp was pronounced. Each step seemed an effort. After a few paces, it paused. It looked back, directly at the assembled officers. Its gaze was intelligent, expectant. It was waiting for them to follow. Its meaning was crystal clear. Detective Liam Costa stepped out of his unmarked car. He was new to this precinct. The morning sun was already warm on his face. He knelt. He examined the pajama sleeve carefully. The rocket print. It matched the description of what young Finnegan O'Malley was wearing. Finnegan, 8 years old. He had vanished from his own backyard. 2 days ago. An agonizing 48 hours had passed. No leads. No ransom note. No witnesses. Just a terrifying, aching void. Until this very moment. This thin, injured dog. This small, bloodied piece of fabric. A fragile, almost unbelievable thread of hope. Costa looked at the dog. The animal met his stare. There was a strange, knowing quality in its eyes. A silent plea. Costa made a swift, instinctual decision. He gave the order. His voice was firm. Follow that dog. The officers moved. Their training kicked in. But this was unlike any training scenario. They were on foot. Costa followed at a slow pace in his vehicle. The dog stayed resolutely ahead. It seemed to possess an uncanny sense of direction. It wove through sun-dappled alleyways. Litter skittered in the slight breeze. It navigated past lots filled with discarded junk, the detritus of city life. It slipped with surprising agility between rusted, leaning chain-link fences. The officers exchanged nervous, incredulous glances. There was an undeniable surrealism to the situation. A police pursuit, led by a stray. A wounded stray. It felt like a dream. A strange, unsettling dream. The dog never faltered. Its limp seemed to worsen. Pain must have been its constant, unwelcome companion. Yet it pressed on. Its determination was a palpable force. A silent, driving energy. Occasionally, it would stop. It would turn its head, its ears perked. It would look back, checking, ensuring its human followers hadn't fallen too far behind. Its breath came in ragged, shallow pants. Its small body trembled with exertion, but its spirit remained unbroken. It was a small, furry beacon of unwavering resolve. It was leading them somewhere specific. Of that, Costa was certain. The sun climbed higher. The city air grew thick. Heat shimmered from the pavement. The pursuit was physically demanding. The officers were fit. They were trained for this, or so they thought. This was different. This chase wasn't about apprehending a suspect. It was fueled by a desperate, fragile hope, by an almost childlike trust, placed entirely in an animal carrying a silent, urgent message. A message of life and death. Costa watched from his car. His knuckles were white on the steering wheel. He had seen many bizarre things in his years on the force. He had investigated crimes that defied logic, crimes that chilled him to the bone. But this was unique. This dog was a lifeline, a scruffy, four-legged prayer in motion. It moved with an unwavering, almost sacred purpose. It navigated the urban maze, as if it possessed an internal compass, a map etched into its very being, a map only it could decipher. The minutes stretched, taut, unbearable. Tension hung heavy, so thick you could almost taste it. Where was this creature leading them? What horrors or what miracles awaited them at the end of this unlikely journey? After what felt like an eternity, but was perhaps only 10 or 12 agonizing minutes, the dog stopped. It stood, trembling, before a decaying, forgotten house. The house slumped on the desolate edge of town, near the abandoned railway lines. Paint, once perhaps a cheerful yellow, now peeled from its weathered clapboard siding like sunburned skin. It hung in sad, curling strips. Windows were boarded up, haphazardly, with mismatched pieces of rotting plywood. Weeds, tall and aggressive, snaked up the crumbling porch steps. They choked the life from what might once have been a flower bed. The house looked utterly forgotten by time. Abandoned. Desolate. A place where shadows clung like damp moss. A place where secrets festered. The dog, however, was anything but calm. It was agitated. It barked sharply, insistently. Short, high-pitched yelps. Its front paws, muddy and worn, clawed frantically at the lowest step of the dilapidated porch. It looked up at Detective Costa. Then it looked pointedly at the forbidding front door. Back and forth. Its message was clear, undeniable. This was the place. This was where their search would end. This was where the answers lay. Costa pulled his car to a jarring halt at the curb. He switched off the engine. The sudden silence was unnerving. He got out. His hand instinctively went to the reassuring weight of his holstered service weapon. He studied the house. A cold, unwelcome shiver traced its icy path down his spine. It looked like a place where nightmares were conceived, where hope went to die. The dog whined, a low, urgent sound, deep in its throat. It nudged Costa's hand with its wet, cold nose. Then, it pointed its nose emphatically at the door again. It was insistent. There was no room for doubt. No room for hesitation. Costa gave the signal. Two uniformed officers, their faces grim and set, approached the front door. They braced themselves. They put their shoulders to the weathered wood. They pushed. Hard. The door resisted. Then, with a loud, splintering crack that echoed ominously in the sudden stillness, it gave way. It swung inward, groaning on rusted hinges. Sunlight, intrusive and almost violent in its brightness, poured into the gloomy, cavernous interior. It sliced through the thick darkness in dusty, ethereal shafts, illuminating an interior thick with decades of neglect. The air inside was heavy, stagnant, not with the simple smell of darkness or disuse, but with a profound, unnerving stillness, a silence that prickled the skin. It made everyone profoundly uneasy. Their booted footsteps echoed unnaturally on the bare, warped wooden floorboards. Cobwebs, intricate and ancient, hung like macabre, silken decorations. From the ceiling, in every corner, furniture, draped in ghostly white sheets, loomed like silent, watching specters. Ghosts of a life long since departed. The smell of decay was pervasive. And something else, fainter, but sharper, acrid. They began to search, methodically, carefully, room by empty, echoing room. Each doorway opened onto more desolation, more dust, more silence. The dog stayed close to Costa. Its nose twitched. It sniffed the stale, cloying air. It seemed anxious, restless. Its small body vibrated with a nervous energy. Then, in the narrow, shadowed back hallway, near what might have once been a kitchen, it stopped. It froze. It began to paw persistently, frantically, at a specific section of the worn floorboards. One of the officers, a young woman named Miller, knelt beside it. She examined the dusty, scarred floor. She ran her gloved hand over the boards. She found it a loose panel, cleverly concealed, almost invisible to the untrained eye. She used the tip of her heavy-duty flashlight to pry it up. It came away with a soft sucking sound. Beneath it a set of steep, narrow, unlit stairs. The stairs led down into a black, foreboding basement. A palpable wave of cold air rose from the opening, carrying with it the scent of damp earth and something else. Something metallic and sickening. Fear. Flashlights were switched on. Their powerful, focused beams sliced through the oppressive, subterranean air. The beams danced erratically on damp, cold stone walls. Walls that seemed to weep with moisture. At first, they saw nothing. Only shadows. And more shadows. Heard nothing. Only the cautious creak of their own boots, descending the old, rickety stairs. Each step threatened to give way. The smell of mildew was strong, overpowering. And that other smell, the metallic tang, stronger now, more insistent. The unmistakable, cloying scent of stale fear and old blood. Then they heard it, faint, barely audible. A soft, heartbreaking whimper. It seemed to come from a dark, shadowed corner, furthest from the stairs. They aimed their lights. Their hearts pounded in their chests. Curled in the corner, small, pathetically still, barely conscious. It was him. It was Finnegan O'Malley, the missing boy. His small, thin wrists were bound tightly, cruelly, with rough twine that had cut into his skin. Duct tape, gray and menacing, clung loosely, obscenely, to his slender neck. A silent, terrifying testament to the ordeal he had endured. He was bruised. His face was swollen. He was dangerously dehydrated, visibly, profoundly frightened. But he was alive. He was breathing. Sweet, overwhelming, dizzying relief washed over Detective Costa. It was immense, profound. It almost buckled his knees. The officers rushed to the boy's side. They spoke softly, gently. "Finnegan?" "We're the police. You're safe now." They carefully, tenderly cut his restraints. One officer, a burly man with kind eyes, cradled the boy's small, fragile form. He lifted Finnegan into his arms. He carried him up the narrow, treacherous stairs, out of the suffocating darkness, out of the nightmare, into the bright, welcoming, life-affirming daylight. The dog, the hero dog, followed close behind them. Every step of the way, it never left Finnegan's side. Its tail, for the first time, gave a small, tired, tentative wag. Its mission, its impossible mission, was finally accomplished. An ambulance, its sirens already screaming their urgent song, rushed Finnegan to City General Hospital. The dog, now temporarily and affectionately named Hero by the visibly moved officers, rode in the front seat of Detective Costa's car. It sat quietly on the passenger seat. Its head rested on the door. It looked out the window at the passing city, as if its job was not yet fully done, as if it needed to see this through, to the very end. At the hospital, a waiting team of doctors and nurses sprang into efficient, life-saving action. Finnegan's parents, Eleanor and David O'Malley, arrived moments later. Their faces were pale, gaunt, etched with the unbearable torment of 2 long days and 2 longer nights, of unimaginable worry, of sleepless, prayer-filled vigils. Then they saw him, their son, small, battered, but alive. Relief, so potent it was almost a physical blow, flooded their features. Tears flowed freely, unrestrained, unashamed. They had endured 48 hours of unspeakable, soul-crushing hell. Now their boy was back. He was safe. Their nightmare was over. Once Finnegan was stabilized, once he was settled in a clean, warm hospital bed, hooked up to an 4 drip, his parents holding his small hands, he finally spoke. His voice was weak, a mere thread of sound, a painful whisper. He told them what had happened. He had been playing in his own backyard. Near the old oak tree, a man had approached him, a man with cold eyes. He said he had a lost puppy. He grabbed Finnegan. He clamped a hand over his mouth. He was bundled roughly into the trunk of a dark car, taken to the terrifying, silent, abandoned house. Locked in the dark, damp, cold basement, he was so scared. He thought he would die there. He thought no one would ever find him. He remembered his new pajamas, the ones with the rockets. He managed to tear a piece, a small, ragged piece of his sleeve. He found a loose, rusted pipe near the damp wall. With trembling fingers, he pushed the cloth through a tiny crack, a minuscule, almost invisible gap in the rotting floorboards above him. It was all he could do, a desperate, tiny act of defiance, an act of hope, in the face of overwhelming, suffocating despair. He prayed. He prayed someone, anyone, would find it. He never, ever imagined a stray dog, a thin, limping, forgotten, nameless dog, would be his ultimate, unlikely savior. Hero sat patiently, just outside Finnegan's hospital room. An officer had thoughtfully provided a bowl of fresh, cool water, and a portion of a leftover tuna sandwich from the hospital cafeteria. Hero ate slowly, deliberately. Its own terrible ordeal was over too, but it remained watchful, vigilant, alert. Its gaze remained fixed on the closed door to Finnegan's room, as if standing guard. Investigators, meanwhile, worked with grim, focused efficiency. The abandoned house on the edge of town was now a major, active crime scene. They soon learned its last known registered owner was a man named Marcus Thorne. Thorne, a former school custodian. Chillingly, he had, for a brief period, worked at Finnegan O'Malley's elementary school. His employment record was checkered. His personal history showed a disturbing, escalating pattern. Previous arrests for indecent exposure, Complaints from neighbors about his unsettling, reclusive behavior. He had, it turned out, disappeared the night before Finnegan was found. He had likely been spooked, perhaps by the increased police presence in the area, or perhaps he was planning to return, to do God knows what. No one knew for sure. But one thing was terrifyingly, chillingly certain. Without that small, precious, bloodied piece of pajama cloth, without Hero's incredible instinct, his unwavering tenacity, his sheer, dumb courage, no one would have ever thought to search that God-forsaken, forgotten house. Finnegan O'Malley would not have been found in time. Marcus Thorne would have remained a shadowy, predatory threat. The police immediately issued an all-points bulletin for Thorne. His grainy, menacing mugshot was soon plastered on every news channel, on every social media feed. The manhunt for him was intense, urgent, but the immediate, overriding focus was on Finnegan's recovery, his healing, and on the brave, selfless dog that had saved his young life. Animal control officers arrived at City General Hospital later that afternoon. Their van was parked discreetly near the emergency entrance. They intended to collect Hero. He was, after all, technically a stray. Unlicensed, unshipped. He needed to be processed, checked for diseases, taken to the already overcrowded county shelter. But Finnegan, from his hospital bed, overheard their quiet, professional conversation with a nurse. He struggled to sit up, his young, pale face contorted with alarm, his eyes still shadowed with trauma, filled with fresh, panicked tears. He clung tightly to his mother's comforting hand. "No!" he cried out. His voice, though weak and raspy, was surprisingly firm, resolute. "He saved me." He looked towards the door, where he somehow knew Hero had been patiently, loyally waiting. "He's mine now. He has to be mine." His parents, Eleanor and David, did not hesitate. Not for a single, fleeting moment. They had seen the undeniable, unspoken bond. They knew the profound, irrefutable truth. This dog was a hero. A genuine, four-legged hero. More than that, he was already family. He was a gift. A miracle. They spoke earnestly, passionately, with the understanding animal control officers. They spoke to a supportive, smiling Detective Costa. The decision was an easy one. It was the only one. It was the right one. They officially, joyfully adopted Hero that very day. They decided he needed a new, permanent name. Hero was a good name. A fitting name. But this dog was more than just a hero. Finnegan thought for a long, quiet moment. His small, bruised face was serious, concentrated. "Guardie," he whispered finally, his voice filled with a child's pure conviction. "His name is Guardie." It was perfect. It resonated with truth. News of the astonishing, almost unbelievable rescue spread like wildfire. First through the hospital staff, then through the stunned city, and then, carried by the relentless news cycle, far beyond. It was an incredible, deeply heartwarming story. A lost little boy, found against all odds. A heroic, impossibly intelligent dog. A rescue that felt like a genuine, heaven-sent miracle. Crowds began to gather, spontaneously, outside the hospital. They hoped to catch a glimpse. A brief, fleeting glimpse of Finnegan, waving from his window, and of Guardie, the amazing, scruffy dog who had saved him. People brought flowers, bright bouquets of hope. They brought heartfelt, handmade cards, filled with messages of love and support. They brought bags of premium dog treats, and new, brightly colored, squeaky toys. An outpouring of community love and gratitude. Guardie, once gaunt, once forgotten, once a nameless, invisible stray, limping through dark, cold, indifferent city alleys, stood quietly, proudly by Finnegan's bedside, or sat calmly, contentedly, with David and Eleanor in the bustling hospital hallway. He was no longer a stray. He was something else entirely. Something more. Something vital. He was calm now. His eyes, once frantic with terror and unspeakable panic, were now watchful, alert, protective, filled with a deep, gentle, unwavering loyalty. He had a home. He had a purpose. He had a family. He had unconditional love. The transformation, both physical and spiritual, was astounding to witness. He even seemed to stand a little taller. His limp, though still present, seemed less pronounced. Headlines blazed. Across newspapers, across websites, across television screens. Stray dog's amazing rescue leads police to missing child. Miraculous basement discovery saves boy's life. Hero dog Gardine adopted by grateful family. The stories were everywhere, shared and reshared. A beacon of good news in a world often too full of sorrow. On television news segments, on radio talk shows, retweeted countless times on social media platforms. But those who were there, those who had witnessed it firsthand, Detective Liam Costa, Officer Miller, the other first responding officers, Finnegan's eternally grateful parents, they knew the deeper, more profound, almost sacred truth. This was not just a remarkable rescue. It was not just a lucky break. It was, in every sense of the word, a miracle. A moment when the ordinary, mundane, predictable world had been touched by something truly extraordinary, something divine. It was a moment when an invisible creature, an unwanted, unnoticed, suffering, starving dog, became someone's cherished, beloved guardian angel. Gardine. The name fit him perfectly. He reminded the entire watching world that courage, true, selfless courage, can come from the most unexpected of places, from the most humble, unassuming beings. His limp was still there, a permanent, visible, poignant reminder of his difficult, painful past struggles. But now it was also a badge of honor, a testament to his incredible, unwavering resilience. His journey had been one of unimaginable hardship, of hunger, of pain, of loneliness, but it had, against all odds, ultimately led him to Finnegan. It had led him to a warm bed, to regular meals, to a loving family. It had led him to a new, brighter, safer life. Detective Costa often found himself replaying the events of that extraordinary day in his mind. The dog's unwavering, intense, almost human focus. The desperate, pleading hope he had seen so clearly in its intelligent, knowing eyes. He had seen the worst of humanity in his long, often grueling career. He had witnessed acts of cruelty that made him question his faith in his fellow man. But he had also been privileged to witness the very best. Moments of pure, unadulterated goodness. And sometimes, he mused with a small, private smile. The very best came on four paws, covered in matted, dirty fur, with a heart overflowing with raw, untamed courage, and an inexplicable understanding of human suffering. Gardine was more than just a pet. He was a living legend in the O'Malley household, and in their wider community. He was a symbol, a powerful, furry symbol of hope, of unwavering, fierce loyalty, of the incredible, often inexplicable, mystical connections that can form between species, between souls in need. The town of Oakhaven celebrated Finnegan's safe return with banners and balloons. They celebrated Gardine's selfless, astonishing heroism with a special ceremony in the park. For a while, at least, the world seemed a little brighter, a little kinder, a little more hopeful. All because of a dog. A forgotten, injured dog, who refused to give up, a dog who understood distress, a dog who cared enough to act. when all other hope seemed lost. He was no longer just a dog. He was guardian, and he was finally, truly, irrevocably home. The ugly wound on his leg would eventually heal, leaving only a faint scar. The deeper emotional scars of his past, solitary life would slowly, surely fade, replaced by the constant warmth of the sun, by the gentle touch of a loving hand, by the joyful laughter of a little boy, and by the certain, comforting knowledge that he had made a difference, a life-saving, life-altering, world-changing difference. He was a very good boy. Indeed, he was, quite simply, the best. And Finnegan never went anywhere without him.